All right, here. Welcome back, everybody. I'm back with another session of the same chapter, and let's just get going with it. Okay. So, in today's session, we'll be talking about the different type of joints which are present in the human body, which are the fixed or slightly movable, freely movable, immovable. Cartilages also will be talking about, and different type of movement of bones also will be talking about. Okay. So, stay tuned for this one. Now, see, when we start with different kind of the joints, it's very important for you to understand what exactly is a joint. Joint joint is a place where two or more bones meet, where two or more bones meet, right? Now, that being said, there are multiple type of joints. We have basically three major types: perfect, imperfect, and immovable or fixed joints. Okay, so we have about three types right here. We have the perfect, we have the immovable, which are also called as the fixed, right? And then we have the slightly movable joints. All right, we'll be learning about all of these turn wise, right? So starting with the joints again, joints, they are very important, right? Remember when I told you in the previous session that if there were no joints in a body and all the bones were just attached to each other, we'll just be moving like the legos and just be doing this, which will be of no use, right? So that is why joints are there, and they help in making different kind of movements into a body. So what you see right here, these are the different type of movements which I'm making with the help of my joints, right? So they are also present in the different locations. For example, the joints which are present in my neck, joints which are present in my hand, joints which are present in my wrist and my arm, right? So there are different type of joints which are present in the different locations of the body, right? And the basis of the joint, what kind of joint is present at what location of the body, different movement in the body occur, right? So I'll be moving forward with that. You see, joints starting with the fixed joints. Fixed joints are also called as the immovable joints, or which do not have any type of movement. Rather, their major function is providing the stability or providing the structure. Okay, so they provide the stability, they provide the certain stability to the body, which is very important. For example, the immovable joints which are present in the skull, right? Our skull cannot move, right? That is why there are fixed joints. That is to provide the, let's say, the stability here, so that our brain can be held up, or it can be held up in a place of the utmost protectiveness, utmost protection, right? They do not move. Also, the bones in the skull, the perfect is example that I just gave you, and the bones which are the radius and ulna bones. See, this is the upper arm with the humerus. Okay, these are the lower arm. This is the lower arm with the radius and the ulna which is present inside it. So radius and ulna are jointed with each other right here and with here. Okay, with each other right here and here. But we cannot move them. Can we move this? No, right? I cannot move my hand like this. No, right? That is because the joints are completely immovable. On top of that, the fixed joints, they are also called as the synarthorus joints, right? Now understand this thing. When we are talking about the fixed joints or the immovable joints, these are absolutely the kind of joints which never move. There's like no movement at all, and mostly they could be present in the skull, that I have just given you the example, the lower arm bones, and the pelvis region. Pelvis is the hip region that is present there. Okay, apart from that, they're also called as the unorthosis joints. Okay, that means which provide the stability, so always go with the keywords which are present. Okay, and if you mention these keywords, they are going to help you in getting more marks. Apart from that, Skull and pelvis, I have already told you skull and pelvis. The important thing is that they have the continuity of the bone segments. Continuity of the bone segments means that one bone is just, fixed into the another bone like this, right? If you see my hands, one bone is fixed into the another bone like this, and there is the proper continuation of the structure. That is what it means, that there's a continuity of the bone segments that are there. Okay, and they're separated by just thin layer of the connective tissue, thin layer of the fibrous connective tissue, in this case cartilage. Cartilage is the kind of connective tissue which is present between the bones right here. What is connective tissue? Which helps in the forming of a connection between the multiple things. If it is present in between two bones, it helps in the connecting of the two bones. For example, the cartilage tissues. Okay, see, there are multiple type of fixed joints which are not really important for you for this standard, but if you want to learn, there is like sutures, syndromes, and gomophysis. Okay, sutures are the ones which are present between the skull bones, right? Skulls, bones. Now see, that being said, we have the another type of joint which is the slightly movable. Slightly movable are the ones which are the amphiarthrosis. Synarthrosis, fixed joints. Amphiarthrosis, slightly movable joints. Okay, these are the ones which are connected by the hyaline cartilage. Hyaline cartilage is the type of cartilage which is a transparent cartilage. Okay, transparent cartilage. It is translucent or transparent. Okay, and this is basically present in the kneecap. Kneecap. Okay, so what you see right here is a kneecap structure. The hyaline cartilage and the slightly movable joint is present in the kneecap. So what does our kneecap do? It just provides us with the 180-degree movement. Okay, just like the hand. Like my hand can move like this and like this and this. Like similar thing goes with the feet, with the legs. Okay, our legs can move like this and this. Not in the forward direction, obviously. That will be weird and creepy. In the backward direction. All right, and these are connected with the hyaline cartilage or the fibrocartilage. Fibrocartilage means fibrous cartilage. Fibrous cartilage basically pertains to the fact that the cartilage is present in the form of the thin fibers. These thin fibers which are interconnected with each other, and they make the movement of the joint at least 180 degrees. Okay. Now see, the most slightly movable joints, they are also present in the backbone. Okay, that and these type of joints are also called as the imperfect joints. Are also called as imperfect joints. Right? Make sure that you properly understand these. Okay, these have a layer of cartilage, always limited amount of movement, always, and the flexibility that is there, or the movement that is there, that is only because of the presence of the cartilage. Okay, in the case of the kneecap, we have the hyaline cartilage or the fibrous cartilage which are present. Okay, now that being said, we're going to move forward with the joints which are freely movable. Freely movable are the joints which are called as the perfect joints as well, because they provide free movement in multiple directions, not in just one direction but in the multiple directions. Okay, and we have about 4 types of freely movable joints. We have the ball and socket, hinge, pivot, and the gliding joints. Okay, we have the hinge, ball and socket, pivot, and the gliding joints. Right, important thing is that they provide a great range of movement in almost multiple directions. Okay, for example, you can move your neck round and round like this. That means our neck is moving round and round. Or you can move your hand like this, like this, like this. Right? That is because of the freely movable joints. Now, moving forward, we're going to start with the pivot joints. Okay. Now, pivot joints are the kind of joints which move side to side. Right? Now, when I say side to side, that means these pivot joints they are present, they basically allow the rotation. Okay, they can help our head from moving like this to this, or to this to this. So in my neck, I have the pivot joint because my head can move in multiple directions like this. Okay. So this provides the rotation and only one axis. One axis as in like this axis right here. This longitudinal axis is around which I'm moving my head. Okay. Now one bone rotates around the another one within a concave ring formed in the second bone. So let's say if you look at this particular diagram, what you see is that there is one bone which is present, and this bone will have a concave structure. Concave structure means, see, this is called as the concave structure and this is called as the convex structure. You'll be learning about more of these in the physics in the 9th and 10th standard. Okay, for now just understand that this is the concave structure and this is the convex structure. Okay, so what really is happening, a concave ring is formed here like this in this one. Okay, if we draw a 3D structure of this will be like this. So here the another bone which is present, the head of that another bone will move in the multiple directions like this. Okay, I hope this is clear to you people. Next thing we have is the hinge joint. Okay, hinge joint, they help in the bending of things, right? See, the hinge joints, they permit the to and fro movement in one plane. To and fro movement in one plane. This plane could be this, plane could be this. Okay, and these could be present between the upper and lower. These are present in the elbow and these are present in the knee joint. Okay, the hinge joints, they help in our limbs to flex and extend. This thing that is happening. Okay, this is because of the hinge joint that is present. Okay, now what really happens, the bones together, they fit. How do they fit? One is the convex. Okay, one is the convex and another one is the concave. This one is the concave, this is the convex, so they fit like this. Okay, and when they fix like this, they can move in one plane in to and fro direction, right? So what you see right here is one example. Another one, it is present in the limbs, hands. Okay, the joint, elbow joint is that we're talking about, elbow joint. Right? I hope you guys understand this perfectly. Next is the ball and socket joints. Now, ball and socket joints are the ones which help in the proper rotation like this. Okay, they help in the wide range. Now, what you see here is that my hands are moving in perfect circle, right? My shoulder is moving in the perfect circle, and so can my hip. Okay, not hip, but yeah, but basically the legs. All right, so ball and socket joints are the ones which have a round head. Okay, now when they have a round head, it's basically movement is possible in all the directions, right? I can move my shoulder in all the directions. I can move my hip in all the directions. Like, I mean, obviously you can't see, but you can move your hip along with the music, right? So let me just give you the picture of it and then you'll be able to understand it a little better. All right, now this right here is the ball and the socket joint which you see. You can see the presence of the hyaline cartilage, ligaments which are joining bone to bone. You can see the ligament joining bone to bone. Femur, because this is the hand bone. Okay, oh no, femur is the leg bone, thigh bone, thigh bone, right? And the same thing is present here. Okay, this is the ball and socket joint. So the movement is in all directions, right? Now that being said, we have the next joints which is called as the twist and bend or the condyloid joints. Okay, condyloid joints are also the ball and socket joints, the kind of ball and socket joints. The only difference is that they are elliptical. Elliptical means they have this kind of shape. Okay, they're not perfectly rounded, they have elliptical shape. Okay, and that is why they can allow the bending, they can allow the circular movement, and they can allow the round movements. Okay, but then again, the proper rotation is not that possible. For example, if I move my wrist like this, I can move my hand based on the joints which are present in my wrist, right? But I cannot move my wrist like I move my shoulder. That is what a condyloid joint is present. Okay, right here. Next thing I have is the saddle joints. Now, saddle joint, you don't have to learn all these joints all together, but these are extremely important for the further studying and learning. Okay, and I promise these are like super, super fun to learn. If you go ahead and experiment on your own, standing in front of the mirror, it'll be fun to learn and see what kind of joints are present in what kind of body. All right. So saddle joints are also the kind of ball and socket joint. Like they're kind of similar to the condyloid joints. Okay. But they have interlocking things. Interlocking as in they hold on to each other like this. Okay. And this allows, obviously, this allows the proper movement, but then again, not as greater type of movement, right? For example, if we talk about the saddle joint, the joint which is present in our thumb is the saddle joint. The joint which is present right here, okay, the little intruded part that you see right here, this one right here, this is the saddle joint. This also allows the great movement. We can do this, we can do this. All right. So I have the example written down here for you. Thumb joint, right? Joint. Right, now moving forward to the different type of pelvic and shoulder girdle joints. Girdles, basically. See, it's very important for a joint or the girdle to have a set of bones, and that set of bones is going to connect to each other. Okay, see, the thing is, we have the appendicular skeleton. You should know that there are different type of skeletons as well. See, appendicular skeletal is the one which will have the bones from your limbs. Okay, and then there's another type of skeletal which is called as the axial skeletal. Okay, axial skeletal, which will have the bones from your skull. All right, or it'll have the bones from your vertebral column. All right, ribs, vertebral column is the one which we're talking about, the backbone. Okay, this will have the limbs, the axial appendicular skeletal, which will it'll have the rings, limbs, and it'll also have the pectoral, which is the shoulder part, and it'll have the pelvic, which is the hip part. Okay, so this is the one thing that you need to learn just a bit. There are two type of skeletons, axial and the appendicular. That's it. Okay, so it'll have the shoulder and the pelvic part. That means shoulder, which is the pectoral, and pelvic, which is the hip part. Okay, I'm just gonna write here to avoid the confusion. Shoulder and the hip part. So this is the pectoral girdle. Okay, girdle means a set of bones which is present. Okay, so in the humans, if we talk about the pectoral girdle right here, it will have the clavicle and the clavicle and the scapula. Okay, in the shoulder, it will have the clavicle, scapula, and the carcoid. Okay, so I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to mention or label these for you. Okay, so this is the one which is called as the clavicle. This is the one which is called as the scapula, and this one right here is the one which is called as the cricoid. Okay, now then again, you don't have to learn all of these, but it will be very helpful for you if you plan to choose the biology in the upper classes. All right, now moving forward, we have the different type of cartilage. Remember when I was talking about the hyaline cartilage or the different type of cartilage which are present in the body, which help in the proper movement of the joints or proper movement of the body, and they also help in the connection of all the body parts, right? So cartilages are two types. We have the synchondrosis and the symbiosis. Okay, we'll be learning about all of these right here. So let's say we have a super cool recording, I mean the video. All right, here we are. Now important thing is that we get on with the video.
Cartilage is this fantastic tissue that makes up that flexible part of your ear, the end of your nose, and the cushioning between your joints. It's also what the skeleton of animals like sharks and rays are made up of. If you're an athlete, understanding the basics of cartilage will help you prolong your career. Here's what you need to know. First, cartilage is a connective tissue like muscles and bones, yet they're also very different. If you break a bone or tear a muscle, you know it right away, because it's full of nerves. Cartilage, though, doesn't have nerves, so you won't know you damaged your cartilage unless it affects the underlying bone. Also, those bones and muscles will heal. Cartilage, not so well. But to get why, we first need to distinguish between a few different types of cartilage. There's elastic cartilage, which is very flexible and found in places like your ear. Then there's hyaline cartilage that is super smooth and tough. It has minimal flexibility, but its glassy smooth surfaces keep our joints sliding smoothly. Then there's fibrocartilage. This cartilage is tough and flexible, but not particularly smooth. It's found in places like your menisci and the intervertebral discs. Many people have this idea that cartilage doesn't ever heal or grow back. In truth, it can, but very, very slowly. Like other tissues, cartilage is made up of cells. These are known as chondrocytes. Now, when other tissues get damaged, they are able to essentially migrate to the wound and divide and multiply rapidly. Chondrocytes can't do that easily for two reasons. First, they're found in a thick matrix, so it's hard for them to migrate to new areas. Secondly, there are no arteries or veins in the cartilage, meaning there's no blood supply to help feed and nourish the multiplying cells. The limited supply they get through diffusion just isn't enough for the rapid growth that is needed. Let's take this example. So say you suffered a joint injury, like ruptured ligaments, menisci, etc. This destabilizes the joint, which in turn affects the cartilage in the long term by wear and tear. This process can take a year or a decade after injury, but it's not reversible. The early changes in cartilage are hard to feel since there are no nerves. But after losing most of the cartilage, the two highly innervated bones are exposed and begin to rub against each other. Yeah, and that really hurts. At this point, the doctor can only medicate the pain since most of the cartilage is gone. If detected early, sometimes doctors will try to encourage cartilage to grow back in the area by putting a bunch of holes in the underlying bone that penetrate the bone marrow. And they call this microfracture. This essentially provides a blood supply and allows some stem cells in the bone marrow to migrate to the injured area to regrow some cartilage. The problem is that it's not that nice, smooth hyaline cartilage that we want. It's essentially scar tissue-like fibrocartilage. It does help protect the bone, but it's not as smooth as we'd all like, and thus doesn't work as well. Since the goal is that nice, smooth cartilage, doctors have a few other advanced cartilage repair techniques. Often they'll take grafts from elsewhere, either your own cartilage or from a cadaver. But you can't just take the cartilage. You take a plug that consists of the cartilage and the bone. The implanted bone will heal quickly with your bone and hopefully lead to a successful operation. The problem with this is that your body may reject the tissue coming from another patient, or if you take the cartilage from another part of your joint, then you leave a new hole in your joint. For future repairs, scientists are working on growing these plugs from our own cells. For instance, one technique could be to take adult stem cells from your own fat cells that can turn into bone and cartilage. Then, through different techniques, tell those cells to either turn into bone or cartilage, and then insert that whole thing back into the damaged area. So, if you're an active individual, here's the key. Be kind to your joints and cartilage. You only have so much, and while it does have some healing potential, it's not much. Also, if you injure your joint, go to a trained orthopedic doctor right away. It'll be a lot easier to salvage your cartilage if you detect the damage early than if you wait until it's mostly gone.
Now, that being said, that was a lot of information that I completely understand. Now, I know that is a lot of information, okay? But all you need to know that there are multiple type of cartilages. We have the hyaline cartilage, okay? We have the elastic cartilage. Okay, now it's very important for you to understand that these different type of cartilages are present in the different areas of the body, right? And in the different areas of the body, they help in making different things. Now, the most important thing is when we are talking about these two multiple type of cartilages, these are the main ones which you need to learn. Okay, apart from that, cartilages, they are very important. Why? Because they help in protecting the bones and they help in smooth movement of the joints, right? Also, if you break your cartilage, it is very difficult for you to realize that the cartilage is broken. Why? Because they do not have any kind of nerve supply, and if there is no nerve supply, we won't get signals to the brains, and then that way we won't get any pain or any realization that the cartilage has broken. For that matter, if the cartilage is gone, like if it is like completely gone, or if it is gone to a let's say large extent, then only when the bones will start rubbing with each other, then we'll realize realize that the cartilage is gone. Now you must have heard about the old people complaining about their knee pain, the joint pains. That is because most of their cartilage has gone and their bones are rubbing with each other, and that is why it is very, very, very painful, and it is very difficult for those people to move, right? Now that being said, we have the pivot joint right here in the neck. Okay, ball and socket joint in the pectoral girdle or the shoulder points. Then we have the hinge joint in the elbow. We have the ellipsoid joint, which is present in the wrist. And then we have the saddle joint. Saddle joint is present in the thumb. Gliding joint is present in the feet. Okay, by gliding, it just kind of glides over each other like this. And if it glides over like each other, then we have the proper movement. Now see, whenever we are standing on our feet, we do this and this and this and this, right? And that is because of the gliding joint that is present there. Right now, that being said, you need to understand that the gliding joint which is present, that gliding joint is present in the vertebra as well. It is present in the ankle of our feet, and it is present in the wrist as well, just a bit of it. Okay, now the bones, they just kind of slide over each other, and only movement which are done are in the single plane. Okay, like this and this, that is a single plane, that is it, the 2D movements. Now moving to the movement of the bones, which is also a very interesting point. Their bone surfaces, the bone surfaces that we have are the flat ones. Okay, the gliding movement, if we are talking about, for example, we are talking about the wrist or the ankle, the surface is very flat, and if the surface is flat, they are going to move by gliding over each other, by slipping over each other. All right. And next we have is the angular movement. Angular movement are the movements which basically have the flexion, extension, hyperextension, abduction, adduction, and the circumduction. Okay, let's say if you are talking about the angular move, we are having, let's say, the example of flexing of the wrist. Okay, this is the angular movement, flexing of the wrist. We are flexing our wrist. Extension, as in we are extending our arms like this. Okay, hyperextension is when we are splitting. Okay, like when we perform the split of both the feet or both the legs. So there are the type of movements which occur inside the body. Next is the rotational movement. Rotational movements, basically rotating movements along one longitudinal axis which is present. All right, now important thing is we have the medial rotation and we have the lateral rotation. Medial rotation is which is alongside the midline of your body, like this with your hip movements, or like with your shoulder movements like this. Okay, or away from the midline of the body, that is the lateral rotation that you see right here with the elbows, with the shoulders. All right, next is the different type of the special movements which we'll be talking about right now. So let's just get on with it.
Body movements and joints. In this module, you will learn about body movements and joints. You do different exercises in your yoga classes at school. For doing these exercises, you do different types of movements. For example, moving your arms and legs, forward bending, shoulder rotation, and many more. You can do these movements easily because your body is flexible. Such flexibility in our body is due to the presence of joints. Do you know what a joint is? Well, a joint is actually a place where two bones are joined together. Rest your hand against your knee, shoulder, or your fingers. You can feel your joints there. Not all joints allow movements. On the basis of whether the joint helps in the movement or not, these joints can be categorized into two types: immovable and movable. The immovable joints are the joints that allow no movement of the body parts. These are also called fixed joints. Such joints are found in the skull. Except the joints present in the skull, all other joints found in the body are movable. Movable joints are the joints that help in the movement of the body parts. Movable joints are further of four different types. They are hinge joint, ball and socket joint, pivot joint, and gliding joint. Let us learn about these joints one by one. Let us first learn about the hinge joint. A hinge joint is very similar to a door hinge. You can see that the door hinge allows the opening and closing of the door in two directions. Similarly, a hinge joint in the body also allows the movement in two directions, that is, forward and backward or upward and downward. The elbow and knee joints are the two examples of the hinge joint. Let us now learn about the ball and socket joint. In the ball and socket joint, the end of one bone acts like a ball. This bone fits into another bone, which acts as a socket. Hence, the joint is called the ball and socket joint. This arrangement allows easy movement of the body parts in all the directions. The hip joint and shoulder joint are the two examples of the ball and socket joint. The next type of joint is the pivot joint. In this type of joint, one of the bones acts like a cylinder and fits into the end of the other bone, which is like a ring. Hence, the first bone rotates inside the ring and allows easy movement of the body part in different directions. An example of a pivot joint is the neck joint. The pivot joint allows the movement of neck sideways, upward, and downward. It even allows the rotation of the neck. The last type of joint is the gliding joint. This type of joint allows the bones to glide over each other and hence allows slight movement of the body parts. In this type of joint, the joint bones are flat and so they slide back and forth and side to side. Ankle joint and wrist joint are some examples of the gliding joint. Now, there is a special tissue that holds the two bones of a joint in position. This is called ligament. There is another soft tissue that covers a joint from outside. This is called cartilage. The bones are not visible from outside. So, in case of an injury, doctors use X-rays to check any damage of our bones. X-rays are the special rays that help to create the image of bones using radiations. Let's recap. A joint is a place where two bones are joined together. Joints can be categorized as movable and immovable joints. The immovable joints or the fixed joints are the joints that allow no movement of the body parts. Movable joints are the joints that help in the movement of the body parts. Hinge joint, ball and socket joint, pivot joint, and gliding joint are the four types of movable joints.
And now we'll be learning about the special movements. Now that we have recapped the entire lecture, the special movements are the inversion, eversion, protection, retraction, elevation, depression, dorsiflexion, plantar flexion, supinations, pronations, and opposition. I know these are a lot to learn, but if you look at the feet movement right here, this, if it is moving in this particular direction, this is called as the inversion. If it is moving in this direction, it is called as the eversion. Okay, inversion and eversion. Depression is when something can be depressed, when it could be compressed. Okay, and similarly there are multiple type of special movements which you look right here. Now all you need to learn is the retraction, elevation, and depression, or the inversion. Not as important rest of these are. And that finishes our lecture today, and I'm so very happy to have learned this with you people, and I'll be meeting you later on in the next session. Okay, so see you all, have fun, take care, learn a lot, stay safe, bye bye.